People tend to wake up in the morning and they begin to think about your problems. Those problems are circuits and memories in the brain, and each one of those memories are connected to people and things in certain times and places. And if the brain is a record of the past, the moment you start your day, you're already thinking in the past. And each one of those memories has an emotion. Emotions are the end product of past experiences. So the moment you recall those memories and your problems, and all of a sudden, what do? We feel unhappy, we feel pain, we feel sad. Now, how you think and feel creates your state of being. So the person's entire state of being when you start your day is in the past. So what does that mean? The familiar past will soon be your predictable future. So if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny and you can't think any greater than how you feel, our feelings have become the means of thinking. So by the very definition of emotions, you're thinking in the past. And for the most part, you're going to keep creating the same life over and over again. So then what do? You grab your phone, you check your WhatsApp, you check your texts, you check your emails, you check Facebook, you take a picture of your feet, you'll post it on Facebook or tweet or Instagram, you check your news, and then you feel connected to everything which is known in your life. And then you go through a series of routine behaviours. So you'll get out of bed at the same side, you'll go to the toilet, you grab a coffee, you take a shower, you get dressed, you drive to work the same route, you do the same thing, and you see the same people, and you push the same emotional buttons, and that becomes the routine and becomes like a program. So now you've lost your free will to a program. And there's no unseen hand in doing that to yourself. So when it comes to time for change, the redundancy of that cycle becomes a subconscious program. So 95% of us of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a memorized set of behavior and an emotional reactions and subconscious habits and hardwired attitudes and beliefs and perceptions that function like a computer program. So then a person can say with 5% of their conscious mind, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to be free, but the body is on a whole completely different program. So how do you make those changes? You have to get behind the analytical mind, and what separates the conscious mind with the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. And this is where meditation can come in, through practicing how to change your brainwaves, slow them down. And when you can do this properly, you can enter into that operating system and become to make some really important changes within yourself. So most people normally wait for a crisis, drama, disease, or a diagnosis, or you wait for a loss or some tragedy to make your mind. And my message here is, why wait? And you can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering, or you can learn and change in a state of mind of joy. And I think right now is like the cool thing, people around us, globally are actually waking up. And people spend 70% of their life living in survival and stress, and always anticipating the worst case scenario based on a past experience. And you're literally selecting the worst possible outcome, and you're emotionally embracing that with fear and conditioning, and your body is pushed into a state of fear. And do that enough times, your body has a panic attack without you, and you can't even predict it because it's programmed subconsciously. So people become addicted to the rush of those emotions, and you use the problems and conditions in your life to reaffirm your own limitations, so at least they can feel something. So now when it comes to change, why you're this way, and every time you recall the event, you're producing the same chemistry in the brain and body as if the event is occurring. So firing and wiring the same circuits and sending the same emotional signal to the body. And what's the relevance behind that? Well, your body is your unconscious mind. In a sense, if you're sitting down and you start thinking about some future worst case scenario which you're conjuring up in your mind, and you begin to feel the emotion of that event, your body doesn't know the difference between the events, which is taking events in your world, and what you're creating through your emotions alone. So most people constantly reaffirming their emotional states. So when it comes time to give up that emotion, you can say that I really want to do it, but really your body is stronger than the mind because it's conditioned that way. So the servant now has become the master, and the person all of a sudden becomes stepping into that unknown, prefer to feel that guilt and suffering, so then they can predict it. So being in the unknown is a scary place for most people, and because the unknown is uncertain. And people say, you know, I can't predict my future, I'm in the unknown. And the best way to protect your, kind of create your future is to create it. But, from the known and not the unknown. And what thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviours do you want to demonstrate in one day? The act of rehearsing and mentally closing your eyes, rehearsing the action of what you want by closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing something. If you're truly present, the brain does not know the difference between what you're imaging and what you're experiencing in like the 3D world. So you begin to illogical hardware in your brain to look like the event has already occurred. So your brain no longer has a record of the past, now it's a map to the future. And if you keep doing this, priming it that way, the hardware becomes a software program. And who knows, you may start acting like a happy person. And then I think the hardest part is to teach our body emotionally that what the future will feel like ahead of the actual experience. So what does that mean? So you can't wait for your success to feel empowered, you can't wait for your wealth to feel abundance, you can't wait for your new relationship to feel love, your healing to feel whole. That's the old model of cosmic effect. And waiting for something outside of us to change how we feel inside of ourselves. And when we feel better inside of us, we pay attention to whatever or situation has caused that. But what that means then, from a Newtonian world, people spend their whole life living in lack and waiting for something to change out there. Newtonian world is all about the predictable. It's all about predicting the future. But the quantum model of reality is about causing the effect. The moment you start feeling abundance and worthy, you're generating wealth. The moment you're empowered, you're healing, you're beginning to step towards your own success here. The moment you start feeling whole, your healing begins. And when you love yourself and you love all of life, and you're all created equal, so you're causing an effect there. And I think that's the difference between living as a victim in your world. I am this way because of this person or this situation or experience. They made me think and feel this way. And when you switch that around and you become a creator of your own world, you start saying, my thinking and my feelings are changing the outcome in my life. And that's a whole different game to play. And then you start believing in yourself and start creating your own reality. And most people, when you have a thought, they just think that's the truth. And I think one of my greatest realizations in my own personal journey was just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. So if you think 60 to 70,000 thoughts in one day, which we do, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before, and you believe your thoughts are something to do with your destiny, your life's not going to change very much, because the same thought leads to the same choice, leads to the same behavior creates the same experience, and the experience produces the same emotion. And so then the act of becoming conscious of this processed to become more aware of how you think and how you act and how you feel. It's called metacognition. So then, why is that important? Because the more conscious you become of those unconscious states of mind and body, the less likely you're going to be conscious of ruining that day. So that thought is not going to slip by that awareness unchecked, because it means to know thyself. And the word meditation is to become familiar with. So as you become familiar with the thoughts and behaviours and the emotions of the old self, you're retiring that old self, and you're firing and wiring new thoughts and conditioning the body and into a new body state. And then if you start doing that enough times, it will become familiar to you. So it's so important to, just like a garden, if you're planting a garden and you've got to get rid of the weeds, you've got to take the plants from the past year and pull them out. The rocks that sit to the top that are emotional blocks, they have to be removed, and the soil has to be tenderized and broken down, and you have to make room to plant a new garden. So primarily, we learn the most about ourselves and others when we're uncomfortable. And the moment you move into that uncomfortable state, a program normally jumps in, and that program jumps in because a person don't want to be in the present moment and engaging constantly. So if you're not being defined by a vision of the future, then you're left with the old memories of the past, which you'll be predictable in your own life. And if you wake up in the morning and you're not being defined by a vision of the future, as you see the same people and you go to the same places and you do exactly the same thing, same time, it's no longer that your personality is creating your personal reality. Your personal reality is affecting or creating your own personality. Your environment is really controlling how you feel consciously. Because every person, everything, every place, every experience has a neurological network in your brain. Every experience that you have within every person produces an emotion within yourself. So some people use their boss to reaffirm their addiction to judgment. You'll refer your energy to resentment and hatred from other people. Your addiction for suffering. So now you need the outer world to feel something. So to change that is to become the creator of your own environment and changing the conditions of your own world, which is seductive. So why is meditation a tool? So let's sit down and close our eyes, totally disconnect from our outer environment. So if you're seeing less things, there's less stimulation to your brain. If you're playing soft music or you have headphones in, less sensory information going to your brain, so you're actually disconnecting from your environment. And if you can sit your body down and tell it to stay like an animal, so sit right here, I'm going to feed you, and when we're done, we can check, then you can check your emails and texts and Facebook and so on and so forth. But then you're going to sit and obey me. So when you do that properly, you're not eating anything or smelling anything or tasting anything, or you're not up experiencing or feeling anything, you would have to agree that you're being defined by a thought, okay? So when the body wants to go back to its emotional past, you become aware that your attention is part of that emotion, is where you place that emotion, that's where your energy is set. So you're ciphering your energy out of the present moment back into the past, and you become aware of that, and you settle your body back down to the present moment, because it's saying, you know, for example, it's 8 o'clock, you shouldn't really be getting upset because you're in traffic at this time, and here you are sitting and used to feeling anger, and you're off schedule. Oh, it's 11 o'clock and you need to check your emails and judge everybody. The body's looking for that predictable chemical state. So every time you become aware that you're doing that, then your body's craving for those emotions, and you settle it back down into the present motion. You're telling the body it's no longer the mind, you're the mind, and you now will is becoming more greater than the program. And if you keep doing this over again, over and over again, over and over again, just like training a horse or a dog, it's just going to say, I'm going to sit. And the moment that happens, the body's no longer the mind. It finally surrenders, and it's a liberation of energy. We go from particle to waveform and matter to energy, and then we free ourselves from the change of those emotions which keep us in the familiar past. And I've seen this thousands of times with clients where we go round and round with this, and then we've got to learn to be able to break that cycle within ourselves. So next time when you get an opportunity with yourself and you wake up and you're thinking about yesterday, how bad it's been, and so on and so forth, just take 5 or 10 minutes out from that and focus on your breathing exercise, play some relaxing music, and drift off to where you want to go and where you want to be. Because if we have a look at our patterns behaviour, what I discussed in this short recording, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So how do you expect to carry on with the same patterns of behaviour day in, day out and expect a different outcome? You're not going to get that. So I do sincerely hope this talk has really helped you, understand a little bit how we work in the process of like a computer. But we can break that cycle. We can make that change. And see how you get on with starting from today, and start learning to grow and start learning to break those chains around you from the past and start focusing on where you want to be in the future. So until then, you take care.